Tonight, as the sun disappears below the horizon, you'll probably do something so automatic you won't even notice it. You'll flick a switch. Instantly, artificial daylight fills the room. It feels normal, effortless, obvious. But for nearly all of human existence, that simple action was impossible. Once the sun went down, there was no backup. The world didn't dim, it disappeared into real darkness. Not dim lighting darkness, but the kind where your own hand vanishes in front of your face. Modern humans rarely experience that anymore. Yet for hundreds of thousands of years, every one of your ancestors lived in a world where roughly half of life unfolded in that darkness. For most of that time, there weren't even candles, only firelight stars and the fragile glow humans could manage to keep alive. So the question becomes, what did people actually do with all those night hours? The answer reshapes what we think we know about sleep, culture, and even human identity. It begins with fire. Fire is the turning point that made human nights possible in a completely new way. The earliest strong evidence of controlled fire use comes from Wonderwork Cave in South Africa, dated to around 1 million years ago. But fire wasn't just about warmth or cooking. It reorganized human life itself. Before it, our ancestors lived within the same constraints as other primates. When daylight faded, activity stopped. You found shelter, climbed, hid, and waited. Night movement meant becoming prey. Humans, with their weak night vision, were at a severe disadvantage compared to predators like lions, hyenas, and wolves. Fire broke that rule. A controlled flame created a perimeter of relative safety, a lit zone where danger hesitated to enter. Outside it lay risk, inside it survival. Ethnographic studies of modern hunter-gatherers show that this boundary is still taken seriously. Leaving the firelight at night significantly increases danger, even today. But protection was only the beginning. Fire also expanded time. Before its use, human activity ended at sunset. Depending on the season, that meant long nights with nothing productive to do. Fire effectively added hours to the day, not metaphorically, but functionally. Entire stretches of usable time appeared where none had existed before. Over generations, those extra hours began to reshape behavior. Anthropologist Polly Wiesner documented this in long-term fieldwork among the Juhonsi people of the Kalahari. Her observations revealed a sharp split between day and night social life. During the day, conversation was practical and task-oriented, hunting plans, water sources, food gathering, obligations, logistics. At night, gathered around the fire, everything changed. Most interaction became narrative. People told stories, joked, remembered the past, speculated about unseen forces, and constructed shared myths. Wiesner argued that this nighttime storytelling environment functioned as a foundation for culture itself. The fire wasn't just warmth, it was a social technology, a primitive theater, classroom, and gathering place where humans learned to imagine beyond immediate survival. In that sense, humanity didn't just survive the night, it evolved through it. But firelight wasn't the only hidden transformation. Another layer of the human night was something modern science only recently began to recover: the way we sleep. For a long time, historians assumed segmented sleep described in old texts was metaphorical or mistaken. But the evidence kept appearing across centuries. References to first sleep and second sleep in medieval diaries, medical manuals, court records, religious texts, and literature, including classical works like the Odyssey. The pattern was consistent. People went to bed shortly after dusk, slept for several hours, woke naturally in the middle of the night, stayed awake for a period, and then returned to sleep until morning. This wasn't an anomaly, it was the norm. During that midnight waking period, people read, prayed, reflected, visited neighbors, recorded dreams, or simply lay in quiet thought. Some medical writings even describe this interval, sometimes called the watch, as the best time for contemplation and study. Later generations misunderstood these references because they could no longer imagine any other sleep pattern. Translators often forced the language to fit modern expectations, smoothing over the idea of two sleeps into one continuous rest. Then modern experiments began to confirm what the historical record suggested. In controlled studies where artificial light was removed for extended periods, participants naturally shifted into a biphasic sleep pattern. Several hours of sleep, a period of calm nighttime wakefulness, and then another sleep cycle. No instruction was needed. Physiological measurements during that wakeful phase showed something unusual. a hormonal state linked with calm attention and inward reflection, distinct from normal daytime alertness. Participants often described it as peaceful, even meditative. It wasn't simply waking up at night, it appeared to be a different mode of consciousness altogether. So, what changed it? Light. Beginning in the early modern period, cities introduced structured nighttime illumination, first in limited forms, then increasingly widespread. Street lighting expanded across European cities, followed by oil lamps, gas lighting, and eventually electric bulbs in the late 19th century. Each step pushed darkness further back. Night, once unpredictable and absolute, became controlled. Gradually, continuous artificial lighting dissolved the environmental conditions that had shaped human sleep for millennia. Even the language preserves traces of this shift. The word curfew, derived from the French couvre-feu, cover the fire, originally referred to a signal marking the end of safe firelight hours, a reminder that night belonged to darkness and sleep. In many historical contexts, nighttime movement without light was restricted or feared. Darkness was associated with danger, uncertainty, and the unknown in ways that are difficult to fully reconstruct today. Eventually, artificial light didn't just extend the day, where it erased night as a separate environment, and with it, something subtler began to fade. Modern humans now spend many hours exposed to artificial light after sunset. This light disrupts the body's production of melatonin, the hormone that helps regulate sleep timing. To the brain, bright light signals daytime regardless of clock time, delaying and fragmenting natural sleep rhythms shaped over evolutionary history. Even short exposures to natural darkness conditions can partially restore older rhythms. In studies where people spend time camping without artificial light, their internal timing shifts earlier, aligning more closely with sunset-driven cycles. This suggests something important. The underlying system is still there. It hasn't disappeared. It's been overridden, which raises a deeper question. If segmented sleep, nighttime reflection, and firelit storytelling were once normal parts of human life, what exactly did we lose when they vanished? Because it wasn't just about sleep structure, it was about what filled the space between sleep and waking, a quiet mental state that no longer has a place in modern schedules. Today, waking at night is often treated as a problem to fix, a disruption, a failure of sleep continuity, but from a longer evolutionary perspective, it might not be a malfunction at all. It might be a leftover pattern from a time when the night itself was structured differently, when waking in darkness was not an error, but part of the cycle. For most of human history, nights were slow, dark, and divided. People gathered, talked, imagined, slept in phases, and lived under a sky unpolluted by artificial light. The Milky Way wasn't something rare to seek out. It was simply overhead. Then, in a relatively brief moment of technological change, we rewrote all of it. We illuminated the night, compressed sleep into a single block, and filled the darkness with constant visibility. And in doing so, we didn't just change how humans live, we changed how humans experience time itself.